Okay. Hi, sixth grade. Today we are going to do something a little bit different. It is not something that I typically do with my sixth grade because it is something that I think you might have done in elementary school. However, seeing as we're stuck at home, I wanted to give you the opportunity to truly be creative and add something with your own type of flair to this project. Okay. Some of you have chosen machines that are everyday, ordinary, kind of boring machines. And some of you have zoomed in on pieces of it or chosen machines that are boxy in shape. And so there's not a whole lot of variety happening on your page. For others of you, that's not the case. You've got details all over the place and it's really busy with lines and shapes and whatever. But for some of you, your page is quite possibly a little on the plain side. It's nice, it's painted, you've possibly filled the space, but there isn't anything like of true interest. So I don't want to say that. Your pictures are lovely and you have drawn well. But when I say interest, I mean something surprising, something unusual. If you recall, in fifth grade, we did a landscape and I said to put something unusual or unexpected in it. People were putting monsters in their landscapes. People were putting dragons in the sky. People were putting like a rubber ducky on the moon, right? Something unusual to catch the viewer's attention. And that's what I'm talking about. That's what we're going to try to add to your paintings today. A little something something. Okay, and we're going to do that with collage. Collage for us, for the most part, is going to be cutting and gluing. Can you sew on this paper? Yes, you can. So those of you who are really confident with sewing, feel free to do that. Can you like beautifully create a hole in this paper and put something behind it? Possibly, though I really don't suggest it because if you're not used to doing that process, it can end in disaster. So doing something, adding to something instead of taking away from this page is probably going to be a lot safer for all of you. So for us, a lot of that is going to be cutting and gluing. So first thing, you're all going to need some glue. And depending on what you are choosing to glue down, the type of glue you use might be different. So for most of you, regular liquid Elmer's glue is going to be your best bet. So some sort of glue like this is fine. Liquid glue, I suggest, is a lot more versatile. A lot more things stick with liquid glue than they do with a glue stick. Paper, flat things tend to work better with a glue stick, but if that's what you've got, use it. You're just going to end up using a lot of it. If you end up doing things that are really thick or cloth or irregular in surface area, something like Mod Podge could be good. If this is laying around your house, do you need it? No, it's just an option for you. If you have rubber cement laying around, rubber cement is a really, really nice material. It just smells awful. It smells so bad. So that, who knows? If you are planning to do fabric type items onto this page, then you might want to think about doing like hot glue, like a hot glue gun. If you have one of those at home, that could be helpful. But for that one, you're probably going to need to ask an adult for permission or for some help with it. But please choose a glue that's going to work for you. However, if Elmer's is all you've got, use the Elmer's. Any of these things should work. Okay? When you are gluing onto a painting, the glue is not what you want to see. So even though you're thinking like, oh my gosh, I'm going to glue down this thing, it's not sticking, I'll add more glue. Don't add more glue. Because if you add more glue, the glue is going to start to splooge all over the place and ruin the surface of your painting. Let it dry. Don't mess with it, right? If after the glue is completely and utterly dry, if your fabric or your button or your whatever isn't sticking physically, you can like just take it off, then try a different glue. But don't add more. More with glue tends to just mean mess. It doesn't mean stickier or more secure. Okay? All right, that's my little spiel on glue. Find some sort of glue that you have plenty of. Now, when choosing the material that you are going to add to your page, you are totally allowed to use more than one, but collage materials tend to come in 3 types of families. So I suggest to stick with one family of materials and not pull from all over the place. You can use whatever you want to use for this, but I would say stick with one. It's going to make your picture a little bit more cohesive. Okay. The first family is the fabric family. And in the fabric family, you're going to find things like yarns. Okay. This is a ribbon. This is also ribbon. Very different looking ribbon, very different textures. Ribbon is pretty great because sometimes you can like mold it around and make it stick in a specific way, but it adds a physical texture that you can also feel. I said yarn. Here we go. Here's some yarn. Sometimes they're very colorful. Sometimes they're very plain, like this one. If you've ever done like friendship bracelets or anything like that, embroidery floss is another one. It's a little bit thinner. You can get more detail with it, but still gluable. This is leather. This is a leather scrap that's been cut off something. Sometimes you can find stuff like this at craft stores. Again, use whatever you have in your house. Please do not go out and buy random stuff if you don't have it. That's not the point of this. Okay. Sometimes you can find stuff that's useful in the garage. Like this is twine. This is gardener's twine. And I have tons and tons and tons of this. I was planning on using some of this in my picture. It's made out of plant fiber, so it's very wiggly like this. It doesn't like to lay flat, but we'll see what we can do. You can like iron this and whatnot to straighten it out or stretch it to straighten it, but it's just reliable stuff. I like it. Most homes, especially if they have gardens, have some of this. Things like buttons, they go in this family, the fabric family, because fabric makes our clothes and buttons go on clothes. So here are just an assortment of buttons. Mrs. Dominic did a really big, I was doing art for a little while that centered around drawing and sewing with buttons, and so I have all these buttons left over, but they're also left over from like clothing. Like most people, when they buy a new shirt, get some new clothing. Like this button, I didn't go out and purchase this button. This button came for free on a sweater or on a shirt, right? A blouse. So there might be buttons laying around your home that you're unaware of. And then other things that go in the fabric thing are beads. So like I was planning to use some of these in my project too, beads. These are seed beads. If you've got larger beads laying around your house, they would be totally fine. If you've got beads that are like the shapes of, got letters on them or whatever, they're totally fine. Whatever kind of beads you have. If you had something like glitter, I would put that in a different family. But glitter, even though Mrs. Dominic hates it, you're at your house. Use it if your parents will let you or if you have it. If that's what you want to use it. So that's family 1 is the fabric family. Okay. Family 2, which is going to be particularly helpful for my friends who are not at home right now. Maybe you're on vacation. Maybe you are at grandma's. Maybe you are stuck in a hotel, whatever it is. You might want to use this family. This is the food family. Using food to collage with is great. So I have, these are grits. Miss Dominic loves grits. They're made out of corn, hominy, and they're really phenomenal with cheese. But grits are just what they sound like. They're little teeny tiny gritty granules. It's almost like sand. It's corn that has been ground up to the texture of sand. If you were to, say, fill something with glue and add something like grits onto it, it's very much like adding glitter to something, except it's food instead. And then it'll give it like a sandy, bumpy, rusty type texture, right? Now, grits are white. Okay, cornmeal is yellow. So sometimes you need to think about the color, but the nice thing about food items is that many of them can be painted or stained. So you could glue on these grits and then go back and paint it a color that you want to paint it, right? So grits were great. Another one is beans. These are lentils, and many families have dried beans of some sort at their home. These work well. Pasta can work well, especially the long, skinny noodles like literal spaghetti or linguine or something like that. When you start putting on like gluing down bow ties and gluing down like elbow noodles and stuff like that, you have to be a little bit more careful. Can you use them? Yeah, sure, but you're then trying to create a texture and not just, this isn't like kindergarten art, right? I'm not going to just randomly fill my page with elbow noodles and call it a day. You very like deliberately and carefully laying them down so that it looks nice. Okay, but food is a really safe bet because again, you can paint these things, you can color them, you can dye them a color, stuff like that. Okay, and then the third family of collage items would be paper. So paper comes in a lot of different forms, right? Most of the time when people think of paper, they think of like construction paper like this. This is actually charcoal paper, but it's basically colored flat paper, right? Or maybe you've got some that are like pre-cut out because you've got a little brother or sister who's in elementary school, right? So I've got all these octagons, hexagons. But paper comes in many different forms, right? So like this is scrapbook paper that looks like it's been sewed on. This could work, anything. Tissue paper, also paper. When you glue this down, sometimes the color can bleed. Sometimes you can crumple it up if you want something that's a little bit more 3D. But tissue paper is really interesting. Tissue paper also layers. So if you don't have exactly the color you want, you can put down a couple of different colors together and see what kind of colors you can make. Scrapbook paper also comes in these really fancy things. So like this is one that's been all cut out. To make these beautiful swirls. Who knows? Maybe I'll figure out a way to use this. Other things that are more like versatile. These are paint swatches. Okay, so these are all just colors that I had left over from painting my own home. And they are totally great for putting like different gradients, like this one is going to be wonderful. I'll probably use this. Different gradients of color somewhere, right? Like say you want something to look like it's got steps to it, or that it goes back in space, or something like that. Make the colors go lighter and lighter and lighter on it, and it'll look like it's further and further away from you. That's using value again, right? So paint swatches are wonderful. No, my whole house isn't red, sorry. And then also magazines, right? We've talked about this before. Any kind of catalog or magazine is really, really great for imagery, textures, cutting things out, gluing things down, adding something of interest. I could even cut out like this robot, right? If I was very, very careful and went around the edges and made it look amazing, I could cut out this robot and add it to my picture, and people would be like, well, why is there a robot? Or like this fish. Oh, that's really interesting. There's a fish in this picture. I wonder what the artist is trying to say by adding this fish to the picture, right? So add something that's going to be unexpected. Okay? So from here, the choice is yours. Pick a family, either paper, fabric, or food. One family. And then start adding things. And then if you're sitting there and you get really inspired and you're like, oh man, it would be really cool if this was lumpy bumpy over here, but I don't have any small beads like Mrs. D, but I do have like cornmeal downstairs in the kitchen or sugar downstairs in the kitchen. Maybe I should go get that. Can I use that too? Even though I've got all this paper stuff on there. Yes. Yes, you can. Okay? Use your imagination. But go ahead and do all kinds of stuff to your picture to finalize it, make it interesting. Okay? Please don't be that student that just adds one thing and is done. Make something amazing and fun. Okay? I am going to do something strange to mine, and then it's up to you, right? Good luck. Ask questions. Do your best work. Don't be a lazy artist. And I will see you soon. These projects are going to be due next week. So be very careful and awesome with your project. Let it dry really, really well. Photograph it. Turn it in. Okay? Bye.